welcome to another Conversations on Awaz-e-Haqiqat, which stands for the voice of truth. I'm your host, Chris Malika Bhadra, and depending on whichever part of the world you're listening to me from, um, today's topic is something that I think most of us might have experienced in some way or the other. Our parents might have experienced. This is very, very common, mostly in South Asian workplaces that we see or hear of, is workplace aggression. Workplace narcissism. What exactly happens when we shower our anger, when angry with our employers or employees? What happens? What are the underlying causes that makes someone angry? And on that issue, I'm going to talk to one of my distinguished guests who's joined me from India tonight because it's night for me, afternoon for her. I'm joined by Radhika Mangat Menon. With 22 years of experience in IT or ITES industries, leading global teams and responsible for P&L, Radhika quit her full-time job to venture into consulting and trained to be a coach certified by International Coach Federation. Since 2015, she has been consulting for startups and small to medium companies on growth, human resource development and systems and processes. Having worked with multiple leading MNCs, Radhika has been studying organizational behavior for the last 15 years. Her specialization is leadership development and has been retained by reputed companies for coaching their leaders. Radhika is also passionate about mental health care, especially at workplaces, and women and leadership development. She's an avid balcony gardener and she spends her time growing plants and supporting leaders who aspire to grow. How lovely is that? On that note, a very good afternoon, Radhika. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Chris, and thank you for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts on a very pertinent um, subject, because workplace aggression is something that we all moan about, complain, and it's within the groups, and it's rarely ever spoken
Yes.
extensively and understood. Okay, because there are several underlying beliefs. So it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon or your evening to discuss this topic, which is very close to my heart, because
Yeah.
as a leadership coach, I see all varieties and versions,
Yes.
yeah, some of the most successful people I've seen have shades of this
Mhm.
particular behavior. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Now, the honor is all mine, Radhika, because it's like people like yourselves who come to this platform and broaden my mindset also. So thank you for saying yes to me. I'll get right into the conversation. And what is interesting to me from a layman perspective is both sides of an aggressor, right? At work, he might
mm,
be your manager, but what happens when he goes back to his personal space? So the first thing that I want to know from you, Radhika, is are there any, how do we distinguish between high confidence and narcissistic traits in the workplace?
um, yeah, it's not apparent. It's a person who is very successful, very intelligent, and very confident
Hmm.
can be terse and have little patience with, especially with uh, bad performance or below expectations.
Yeah.
So you cannot, as soon as you spend some time with a person, you cannot say that, hey, this person is a narcissistic personality. um, so it takes some study of the person. So
Hmm.
what we can do today is discuss the types of narcissism and some of the common behaviors, or if I can call it symptoms, and then try and kind of match that with the behavior,
So,
and figure out, is this person narcissistic, or is he just a
hmm.
very confident, fully developed adult.
Right.
So yeah, we can look at that. So if you would like to continue, like me to continue on
Sure,
what
please do.
the
Yeah.
the types of narcissism. So
Hmm.
if you were to Google, you will find that there are four types, then there are 11 types, there are 10 types, which only goes to show that this subject is still under study. It is
Hmm.
too vast. I mean, it's not like physics. It's a little bit too esoteric, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to collect data and assign, to analyze that data and
Hmm.
assign some definitive outcomes. But broadly, very broadly, narcissism appears in two forms. One is
Hmm.
grandiose. You can see that person from 10 miles far, that I know everything. Even the demeanor, the way they walk, and they're particularly, they dress well, they have to look good. In fact, they
Hmm.
have to look better than the others. They'll
Yeah.
buy more expensive ties. So it's about, I am better than anybody else. Now, if you look at the story of Narcissus, because of whom this condition or this
The
particular
term.
behavior
Hmm.
is named, Narcissus was a very handsome young Greek, mythological character, and Narcissus thought that he was too good for any woman to, for him to love any woman.
Yeah.
I mean, the women just didn't deserve him. He was like
Hmm.
way too good. So he said even no to even goddesses, and then finally he got cursed, saying that you will fall in love with your own shadow,
Hmm.
which is it's a very terrible thing, being in love with only yourself, which means that you have denied love of another person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you keep that as a premise, because it's very important to understand this behavior. Now, a person, I mean, especially a grandiose narcissist will, is shouting for attention,
Hmm.
is shouting for approval. You have to put him or her on a pedestal. And let me tell you, this is not limited to men. Okay, there are women who are
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
absolute case studies. Okay,
Absolutely.
so
Hmm.
so there will be this constant validation required, and then you have to keep on saying yes ma'am, yes sir, yes, yes, whatever you say, you're the god, and so on and so forth. So what happens when you have a leader like this
Hmm.
is, how much can I please this person?
Hmm.
So the stress level starts from this. Nothing is good enough for him, because he has to prove that he is better than you, right? You
Yeah.
have done some analysis. He says, no, this doesn't go. I mean, you got
Hmm.
to do better than this. You should. And some of them are extremely intelligent. It's not that they lack intelligence. Okay.
Hmm.
So especially if it is a very intelligent, capable person who is showing this behavior, it takes some management of that individual.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, the second type of narcissism is, we call it vulnerable. Okay,
Hmm.
this is just the opposite of the grandiose. The
Hmm.
vulnerable is, very quiet, and is an introvert, and extremely defensive, which makes it difficult, and is can be very manipulative, because end of the day they get what they want the way
Hmm.
they want.
Hmm.
Okay, so the handling a vulnerable type requires a lot of care. You have to be very careful how you deal with this person, because they can go to deep depression because of rejection.
Okay.
They can get suicidal. So
Hmm.
it's not a very nice place to be in, to be a
Hmm.
vulnerable narcissist, because they while inside of them they may be wanting to shout out, hey, look at me, and get all that what
Yeah.
you call attention.
Hmm.
They don't actively do as a habit. you know so if let's look at, how do you your question is, how do you deal with such a colleague, or
These traits, basically. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
more importantly, a colleague, or more important than that, a boss, because when you
Hmm.
have a boss with these behaviors,
Yes.
your career depends on that person. Okay,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways, what they think of you, how they promote you within the organization, how they support you in your
Hmm.
career
Hmm.
growth.
Hmm.
Yeah, so one of the most important thing, no matter which type of narcissist you're dealing with, is to understand what this is.
Mm.
Why are they behaving like this? Okay,
Okay.
if they are narcissists, okay, understand. A layperson may not understand the full extent of it, but at
Mm.
least, assume that maybe he or she has this personality trait or
Mm.
disorder. I hate the word disorder because it's just
Sure.
how good Lord created you, and it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
perfect, right? So, once you understand, because see, Chris, one thing, you cannot change that person and that behavior. For that matter, you cannot
Mm.
change a person or a behavior just like that with anybody,
Mm.
even with the so-called normal people.
Mm.
You can work on it and eventually maybe, change and all that, but on the flip of a button, you cannot do that. So what you can change is your behavior, how you respond,
Right.
how you respond to this person, how you handle this person, because some of them really need handling.
Mm.
Okay. So the first step would be to set your boundaries, you
Right.
know, this far and no further. Because if
Mm.
the person is all over you, so you have lost ground. I mean, there is, if they're constantly shouting you down, constantly kind of rejecting, so
Mm.
you have to at some point in time, say that, what, I don't think this is, I should be talked to like this, in a
Mm.
very nice way. So that is where, a narcissistic person lacks empathy. That is the most important trait. They don't have empathy. So what
Mm.
you would do is, show your empathy to that person.
Okay.
Hey, I can empathize with your need of wanting to be perfect, wanting to be the best and everything. So help me out here and tell me what exactly you want me to do and how you want to do.
Mm. Mm.
So but sadly, most often than not, what happens is people get into conflict,
Yeah.
they get into argument, and
Mm.
arguments will never work with this particular personality,
Okay.
because they will argue you down and they will argue you out. Simple as that. There's ways and means, and no matter how much you think you have all the things, what you're saying is right, you have the data and everything, if you start arguing, they will argue back and argue you out, 98% of the time.
Mm.
What works when I coach leaders, when we discuss about alpha managers, not all alpha managers are narcissistic, but some of
Right.
them are, very few of them. So alpha managers, as a rule, can be aggressive. So because there is a fine line between aggression and assertion.
Mm.
So if you're a good leader, you're assertive, but if
Mm-hmm.
you slip on being a good leader, one of the traits you kind of develop is aggression, because especially in today's world in
Yeah.
capitalism,
Mm.
aggression is rewarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, being aggressive, be it narcissistic or not, to deal with a person who is aggressive, um, in my opinion, I would say, deal with data. you
Mm.
know have your data ready and make that irrefutable, saying that, hey, this is why I did this, and help me out if I have missed something. So
Mm.
what are you doing is you're setting the boundary, saying that this is where I am, and
Mm.
by saying help me out, you're also giving that person the what you call safe face exist of, okay, this person still needs me.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
that is required.
Mm.
So a very diplomatic way of dealing, in my personal opinion, is this.
Mm.
Instead of throwing it on their faces, explain the data, explain where you're coming from and why it is and why you think it is, and then seek help. Say that, give me your perspective, let me
Right.
understand more. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So that definitely works. I have been told it works and I have seen it working. The other thing is, exercise your empathy as much as possible. Be nice to that
Mm.
person. Because what happens is when there is this such a person, people avoid that person, which makes them even more insecure,
Yeah.
even more wanting to, push power on you,
Mm.
exercise authority unnecessarily. So, being empathetic, treating that person as wanted, needed,
Mm.
and seen is something that, nobody can resist. I mean,
Mm.
they have to appreciate that, and somewhere, if not empathy, at least sympathy factor will come
Yeah.
in their behavior.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
they will be more, what you call, open to suggestions from you,
Mm.
and giving constructive feedback, because if you
Mm.
give critical feedback, they will not accept.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of times what happens when it's an argument, and then you say, but you did this that time and nobody said anything, and that is not a constructive feedback.
Mm.
It's a very destructive, it's like pouring fuel into fire,
Yeah. Yeah.
saying that, I am attacking you now, what are you going to do? So they
Mm.
will do what they know best. They will be even more aggressive,
Yeah. Fair
you
point.
know yeah.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I always tell leaders, or budding leaders especially, being aggressive, in a review meeting while you're doing presentation and all, may win you some brownie points, but it will never get you your team with you.
Mm.
you know
Right. Mm.
your team is not going to like. None of us like to be, faced with aggression. We,
Yes.
our primordial, this thing, coding is, um if there is a fear factor. Aggression means
Mm.
what? Be scared of me, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when the fear factor comes in, you freeze, or you fly, or you fight, or whatever happens. There's no normal reaction to that.
Mm.
So aggression, causes fear, no matter at what level. When it is a teacher and a student, or a parent and a child. Aggression, you have seen, parents yelling and shouting
Yeah.
and hitting the
Yes.
child. The response is very sad. They are not respecting you, because you're yelling and shouting and
Mm.
hitting.
Mm.
They are feeling scared. They are feeling helpless. So it's the same thing, for a leader too. So the listeners of this podcast, I want to make it one thing clear, that we are not only talking about how to deal with people who have this personality. I'm also talking with people who have this personality, as to how you manage your life
Yeah.
around that, because
Mm.
it can come in the way of your career progression.
Yes. True.
It can backfire, and
Mm.
you could get fired for ill-treating your team or your employees. So
Mm.
this podcast, I'm hoping that will, because always when you talk about personality disorders such as this, it's always, how do you deal with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody talks, nobody thinks from their perspective.
Mm.
And I would say it's a taboo to be, to have a personality disorder,
Mm.
which should
Mm.
not be, because I didn't get up one fine morning and say that I will be a grandiose narcissist.
Yeah.
It is
Exactly.
it things have, I mean, we don't know what causes these, even,
Yeah.
be it bipolar or narcissism.
Mm.
We don't know, or maniac. We don't know what causes. I mean, they say that it is nature plus nurture. There could be a gene, it's not been identified,
Mm.
but there could be a gene, because I have seen that bipolarism, kind of is seen in multiple family members
Mm.
within the same
Mm.
family.
True.
So maybe there is a genetic factor, we don't know.
Mm.
But narcissism, one of the reasons that contribute and can kind of blow it up, is also how you were brought up as a child.
Yeah.
Especially, and this is for the parents. This is very, very critical aspect that we have to think about parenting. Is nowadays, we make everything available to the child.
Yeah.
And there are many, many households with a single child. So for the child, he or she is the most important person in the world, which is correct. All children are narcissistic, by the way.
Mm.
They think that, the world has to revolve around them, but
Yeah.
that's the normal behavior.
Mm.
And when the personality develops, all these things get sorted out. So, coming back to parenting, if you are parenting a child which could have this tendency, and you are constantly, what you call, constantly reinforcing that you are the most important person. You can get whatever you want.
Mm.
Nobody can say no to you. So this will become a part of the personality as a child grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Totally.
once you're an adolescent is when you're exposed to the world, and that is when the whole personality development start
Mm.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is one reason. And the other one is, if the child is completely ignored,
Mm.
there are other children, or there are, for whatever reason, the child is not being given enough attention. And if the child is a smart kid who is not being positively reinforced, not appreciated, so in that case also, the child is seeking that from the
Parents.
outside
Mm.
world.
Answer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So these could be causes. These could
Mm.
be, there is no
Mm.
empirical data to prove one thing or the other, but these are the things that what we can explore and think about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, so that is the overall view of the two types of narcissists. And there is
Mm.
a third type that I keenly observe. They are called the communal narcissists.
Okay.
Now, especially I've seen this more in women than men.
Mm.
They are like, for example, if you're living in a colony, she would be or he would be very interested to help out everybody around.
Mm.
They will insert themselves into the issues of other families, will babysit, will take care of the children, will go shop for them, will accompany them wherever they want to go, and but will ignore the household. Their own child will get, I'm not saying totally ignored, but will get a second place.
Yeah.
That priority, in the priority list, their children and family will take a back seat,
Yeah.
because what they want is the outside world to say, oh my god, what a wonderful person, you know they're spending so much time for me. And they feel, people have to feel obligated to this person. So they are, very generous gift givers. They keep
Mm.
gifting things to people. They want everybody to say, oh my god, what a wonderful person, how generous, how kind. So there is no aggression, no nothing, but there is a kind of a manipulative way
Behavior.
of
Mm.
getting all the attention. Yeah, the attention and the validation and the respect, and being, what you call, people can't do without me. So
Mm.
those are the communal, and you will find them in workplace also. They are the ones who will come and help you with your stuff even if you don't need.
Right.
And then you will go and say, oh my god, that person, he is so generous, or she is so generous, came and helped me out, pulled me out of, maybe I didn't need that help. But then
Mm.
this is kind of harmless. The only uh, fallout of such a personality being around is mostly for the family,
Mm.
not for the outside world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is your community narcissist or communal narcissist, uh, for you, which is very interesting study. So one thing about when you start studying behavior and mental health, you look around and you try to kind of figure out, where is this person coming from?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did he have a bad childhood? Did he
Yeah.
have a overbearing mother?
Mm.
Things
Mm.
like that. So it gets really
I
interesting.
think there are so many open doors behind this issue because, as you
Mm,
said, I was watching this on Netflix. It's the Monster Story, Ed Gein's Monster Story. I don't know if you've seen it.
absolutely.
I
Yeah, I did.
was
I did.
I enjoyed it thoroughly because people were like,
Yeah,
you can't have dinner while I was having dinner, all of that. But the mindset
absolutely.
that person had, the worship status for his mom, and the actions
Mother.
that led to that, classic case study that can, help so many of us
Yeah,
in the 21st century. But
yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
now, thank you for the very good start to the question, Radhika, because from there I want to kind of get into the next bit is like, in a because the context of this whole conversation is a South Asian workplace, right? And most of the
Hmm.
times we come across cases where you have bullying cases, you have people trying to sabotage your profession, as you mentioned, your career depends on them. People might be lying to you or manipulate you or downsize you, right? What are some of the psychological links between having those narcissistic traits in yourself as a manager and showing these kind of aggressive behaviors?
Um, yeah, so before answering that, let me also, let's look at the background of our psychodynamics at workplace in, say, in a
Hmm.
country like India or
Hmm.
any country that's being colonized.
Hmm.
Yeah, like for example, some of these East Asian countries were colonized by the Americans and
Yeah.
some by the British, right?
Hmm.
So we had, especially in India, we had this master slave, um, what you call work relationship,
Hmm. Hmm.
which has been passed down. So
Hmm.
it's only very recently that we stopped calling our superiors sir and ma'am. We
Hmm.
address by first name. Like my father's time, it is unimaginable to call your boss by first name.
Hmm.
Right. By my time, the MNCs I worked with, it was people started calling each other first names and all. But
Hmm.
still, there is this, MD is coming, so you kind of, that kind of thing. So that is generationally passed. I would say a kind of trauma,
Yeah.
because it
Hmm.
is an underlying trauma, right? To
Hmm.
accept power as authority,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know um, whereas you have authority is something that you exercise for yourself. You
Hmm.
can give it to a person or not, but we misunderstand as authority being vested with the power.
Hmm.
So with that in the as a backdrop, let's look at bullying in schools, bullying at workplace. It all comes from, I am superior to you and I can get away with whatever I do with you.
Hmm.
There is no need for a narcissistic personality disorder to be manifested there. It
Hmm.
can be by people who are little aggressive by nature, but think that they have the permission to get away with this aggression.
Yeah.
Now, there are some people, they say that, at home he or she is such a sweet person, and when at work they are so aggressive.
Hmm.
And some say that, what they can't show at home, they're coming and showing at work,
Hmm.
and vice versa. So, I mean, there is no answer to these things. There is no, uh, what you call, there are no pigeonholes we can put that A is going to be aggressive at work and docile
Hmm.
at home. And B is going to be like docile at work and aggressive at home. But this behavior is seen and reported that, you are almost like Jekyll and Hyde, where you you behave one way or the other.
Yeah.
Again, underlying need is what? Underlying need is for acceptance. Underlying need is for being seen. Underlying need is for being, regarded, cared for, loved, respected. So that is the underlying need. Only thing is the way of asking that is misplaced. So bullying is something completely different. If you look at the psychology of bullying, is
Hmm.
it we I don't think we should bring that to this conversation,
Okay.
because
Sure.
bullying is something that is happening, especially in school. Bullying is becoming,
Hmm.
they call it ragging in India. But recently I saw a documentary on school bullying in South Korea, which we all consider as a developed country. And
Hmm.
where so one of the things is the class divide, the economic class divide, where the rich can
Yeah,
bully the poor, or the more powerful can bully the less powerful. So bullying is a completely different topic. I would suggest that
sure.
you should take up separately. um, so here the aggression, like I told you, at workplace, first is not accepting it, lying down, like I
Mm,
said, to draw that boundary. I had a colleague, I don't know if that person might listen to this podcast and would know who I'm talking about. So they came from a upper class, from we have this deeply ingrained caste system in India.
yeah.
So they came from a certain upper caste, and they had this habit of, if somebody has not done something, something is missing. For example, there's a file and there's a part missing or something. They would immediately say, "You lesser of the humankind, look at what you have done."
Mm,
So once, twice, third time, I just sat up and said, "Listen," um, and this was a call where there were multiple people, and I said, "Listen, I don't think you," and this is in early 2000s, okay?
mm,
So workplace harassment and all this was not very, I mean, it had
yeah,
just
yeah.
started.
Mm,
And this person is highly educated, highly intelligent, extreme high performer. But, they had this habit of calling anybody not from that particular caste, lesser of the humankind. So it was on a call where I put my foot down, and in very even voice I said, "I don't think that's a nice thing to say."
yeah.
And maybe that is the very first time somebody really, uh, questioned him,
Mm,
and in a
mm,
very non-threatening way.
mm, true.
And these days, somebody would run to the HR, and half the time HR has no clue how to handle something like this, when there is a senior leader involved. But looking back, I think I wrote a case study on that. Handling that veiled aggression,
Mm,
um,
mm,
with putting that boundary, saying that, "Hey, you know you're not allowed to do this.
yeah, true.
You got to stop there." So
Mm,
again, like I said, one of the things I personally pay attention to while dealing with aggressive people is I never raise my voice.
mm,
In fact, I bring it down, from my normal. If this is my normal talking pitch, when I'm addressing a very aggressive person, um, I bring my tone down 2 notches.
mm,
And you will see, even with children, I tell parents, young parents, where the child is screaming and shouting and yelling, bring down your tone, and you will see the child will quieten immediately.
yeah.
Exactly the same thing apply to adults. So if you were, yeah, it is not easy. Yes, when somebody is screaming and yelling and being aggressive to you, your first response is to shout them down.
Mm,
But if you're a good leader, or you're a good aspiring leader, one of the things you will learn to deal with is aggression at workplace. And you have to bring your tone down. You have to tone down, and you need to rationalize in a lower tone, because the higher tone will not fly. I
mm,
think the hearing spectrum blocks out the higher tone.
yeah,
The higher
absolutely.
pitches is blocked out
Mm,
automatically. I don't know if there's any scientific finding. I must talk to people about that. But bringing your tone down is the first thing to do, and stating the fact, because nobody can deny fact. And
yes.
fact should not be generic statement, but usually this is how we do. That is a very generic statement.
Mm,
So what you do is, when we had this particular customer visit, this is what we did. Or that particular incident when there was a breakdown, this is what we did. And hence this is being done. So facts presented in an even tone, non-threatening. You're getting threatened, so there's no point threatening the other person.
Yeah.
Aggression with aggression is unwinnable.
Mm.
So bringing it down couple of notches and giving specific examples or specific data, specific examples is one way of, and it works 9 out of 10 times, because
Right.
there's always an oddball out. But
Mm.
I have personally seen over the 30 years or so I've worked in various capacities. I have always seen that when you raise your voice, the aggression just climbs up. Then it becomes a shouting match,
Yeah.
and nobody is happy, and you also
Mm.
come back home unhappy.
Yep.
We cannot switch off at the when you log out. You cannot switch off and then put on the other personality and come home all
Mm.
happy
Mm.
saying that, oh, I had a great day at work. No. So how we handle also is very important for our own, um, how I handle an aggressive boss or colleague is very important for my mental health.
Absolutely.
you know
Mm.
they also have to be worried about their mental health.
Mm.
So people who are listening to this, if you are prone to aggression at work, prone to shouting, because that is the most visible symptom
Mm. Mm.
of aggression, give it a thought and say that, can I be a little bit more mentally healthy, and
Mm.
can I be a
Yeah.
little bit more happy with myself? Because when I'm
Mm.
unhappy with myself, I throw that unhappiness at people, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so that is what I would want you to take away from this
Absolutely. No,
conversation.
thank
Yeah,
you. You
yeah,
have talked about self-care, Radhika, and I think today self-care is the need of the hour. We need to take care of our mental sanity because eight
right,
hours in the computer and all of that.
right.
But one more thing that I want to raise with you, and you raised it, I just want to expand on it, is psychological safety at workplaces, right? So, as a leader, now I'm talking on the side from the side of a narcissistic leader who obviously doesn't know that they're narcissistic, but how can a leader or how can the workplace leadership foster a culture of psychological safety that might or that will discourage some sort of a narcissistic behavior and that will promote workplace safety, cultural safety?
Yeah. So it comes from the top
Mm,
always. What
mm,
is your values, what is your ethics, business ethics, and how do you make your workplace
mm.
where people want to join, and once they join they don't want to leave, right? So interestingly, a lot of startup people have this discussion with me. Um, so I my suggestion is very simple. Treat people like you want them to treat you. I mean, good old Bible says that, be unto others like you want them to be with
Mm,
you. I used to work in GE, General Electric, during the time of Jack Welch.
mm.
And there were this values, GE values, which, all of us had to kind of internalized, and they were very simple values, very American it may sound, but it applicable to everybody. uh, so one of that was, um, not exhibiting entitlement mentality.
Yeah.
you know so if Jack Welch were to fly in to visit somebody, he didn't expect anybody to be at the airport to receive him with a limousine.
Mm,
He found his ride and he went. So entitlement mentality is again in Southeast Asia. Entitlement mentality of bosses, um, superiors, can go notches up in some cases.
yeah.
I'm your boss. You have to treat me like this.
Mm.
And in India, people used to, you have this driver carrying the briefcase of the boss to the office. I mean,
Yes.
come on, can't you carry your own briefcase? But people think that it's a cool thing to have somebody carrying your
Yeah.
briefcase. Now it
Mm,
doesn't exist. It used to till about 20 years back, or I don't know if it exists in government offices. But I see a lot of K-dramas, and I watch Japanese. Um, Mainly also, I get to get know the culture and
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
So you will see when the big boss is coming, the entire all the two downs are standing in line to welcome
Mm.
him. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the amount of time wasted. Those are the people who should be at their desk and doing their work. So
Mm.
as in organizations, my suggestion to senior leadership is, lead by example. You don't
Mm.
expect people to bring coffee to you at your table. Go get your own coffee.
Mm.
So that will make people understand that, hey, you know what, everybody is equal, and
Yes.
everybody have to be equal because we are all human beings.
Mm.
We are not, somebody is not lesser of the species because he is a peon,
Mm.
right? He is also a human being. you know uh,
Absolutely.
Call him by, address him by name, not call him, hey you, and things like that. uh, so respect for people, if that can be instilled from day one as a value that is non-negotiable,
Mm.
and discouraging entitlement mentality, which is again, telling people that you have to respect everybody equally, is
Mm.
one thing that can uh, create an environment where I don't feel that I'm being choked. I
Yeah.
have to comply to certain people's pleasure.
Mm.
you know I have to serve at that person's pleasure. Those days are over. You have to do your work for which you're being paid,
Yeah.
and you, as a human, you have every right, your basic human right, to be treated respectfully,
Mm.
equally, and be gender or sexual preference or age or whatever it is, you know to be treated as a human, as a
Mm.
fellow human. So that is what is the should be the cornerstone of your
Absolutely.
culture.
Agreed. Agreed.
So
Yeah.
leaders who are listening to this podcast may want to examine, they may want to go and kind of have some conversations with the frontline people, and ask them, how do you feel working here? How many leaders do that?
Yeah.
It's extremely, get out of that cabin, because the people who earn you money are the people in the front line.
Yes.
And if you don't know what the front line is doing, if you don't know what the front line, the issues they are facing, the conditions they are working in, then I don't think you qualify to be a leader,
Mm. Mm.
to lead that group.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
this is something which I,
mm.
um humility,
Mm. Mm.
humility is a great asset, I would
Yes.
say, to
True.
anybody. Yeah. Yeah.
This reminded me of an incident when I started working a few years ago in Melbourne. So, my manager is just sitting next to me. There's no closed door policy. And first few days, I was like intimidated that, oh my God, my manager is just as a chair next to me, same table, same chair. Where is the hierarchy? And then it took me some time to
Yeah.
realize there is no hierarchy. Everybody's equal. He's approachable. You can
Absolutely.
talk to him any point of time. And that breaks
Exactly.
the ice as well. It's just
Yeah.
more humane, as I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me give you this example, in India, where this, what you call, we are so class and level conscious
Mm, mm,
at some of the companies. I was heading a site with about, 2,000 plus, almost 3,000 people.
wow.
And of course, I used to be in back-to-back meetings, and, with the clients, and where I have to be within a cabin because there are
Mm,
certain things that are discussed. But I had penciled in my calendar minimum 2 hours every week, where I would go and, sit next to this kid who is taking a call, resolving some IT issue of one of the client
yeah.
callers. So initially, when I would go, people used to kind of, why is she coming? And I mean, did I do something wrong?
Mm,
Why is she coming and said? Then when I realized that, what I used to do is, I used to take my laptop, go sit in one of the empty seats, and do
mm,
my work.
mm,
I mean, I was just there. So, and gradually they got used to seeing me around, sitting with them at the cafeteria.
mm,
See, these are all thanks to the kind of mentors I had earlier in my career. Not that I am, no, I was born with all the traits. I also learned the hard way. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
be short-tempered, and people used to say we are scared to come and tell you something when it goes wrong. So I had to do that course correction at some point
Mm.
in my career. So to the people who are like me, who claim to be, not very good at dealing with inefficiency, breathe, because I did, and it worked. You can, without shouting and yelling, you
Yeah.
can figure this out.
Yeah.
You have to just take a pause and
Mm.
um, take a different approach. So
Actually.
yeah, so aggression sadly continues,
Mm.
and you see various versions of it. We
Mm.
did not talk about the vulnerable narcissism, which again is a completely different ball game
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
The how to handle, because you cannot often make out, but then series of events that will tell you that this person uh, eventually gets the way he or she wants things
Mm.
done.
Mm. Mm.
There again, showing empathy, showing acceptance, because what they want is acceptance, to be seen, to be thought of superior. You don't
Yes.
have to say you are superior, but you can say that I see you, you're seen,
Mm.
you're valuable,
Mm.
like anybody else. So that is something that it's a little more difficult, because you have no clue what this person is.
True.
And
True.
these are the people who can gaslight you,
Mm.
which is, even aggression can be gaslighting. There is that kind of aggression also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that has to be read out loudly, and,
Mm.
has to be, what you call, dealt with, not confronted, but dealt with, saying that, uh, you can't use the word gaslight, but say, is there something that we need to discuss? Is there some way
Mm.
that we can
Mm.
work together on this particular thing? So tact, tact is the winner, I
E.
guess.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
using
But
our
as
brains
yeah, as you
tactfully.
mentioned, Radhika, that it takes a lot of time to learn these things, especially
Absolutely.
youngsters who've just come out of college and joined an
Correct.
MNC. It'll be very hard for them because
Correct.
these things don't come to us overnight, right? We
Yeah.
learn, we
Yeah.
fall, we get
Yeah.
up. So, these conversations are very useful. Talking to people like yourselves is very useful. Um,
Thank you.
but before I wrap up, because also I'm mindful of time, not that, but I keep stressing on the fact that these conversations need to be had regularly, not one-off time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Since you are in this space, you are constantly working in this space 24/7, how do you take care of your mental health? Just say on a difficult day.
Very interesting question. So there are times that I have clients, and I have very difficult sessions where one has to um, lay down the map, and say that, hey, here is where you stand. um, and end of the day, it is tiring, because using your brain is tiring. It takes a lot of calories, right?
Yeah, yep,
So
yep.
at end of the day, I may have a drink, or I may wind down and watch something nice in Netflix, not maybe, not a very intense kind of a thing.
Mm,
My gardening, in fact, I think I started my gardening as a stress
right.
reliever, because taking care of plants who don't talk back to you, they're happy with their little
Yeah.
fertilizer, they're watering. So find what fits you. There is
Mm,
no, one size fits all. Where is that you feel your heart rate slowing down? uh, where is that you feel comfortable in your own skin?
mm,
You need to find that niche. I feel that everybody, even forget professionals, I feel even homemakers, especially women who are homemakers, I
mm.
feel that they have to find that little place for
Absolutely.
themselves,
Mm,
where they can decompress, and don't have to be what others want you to be, but just you
mm,
you
mm,
know just you, breathing normally, kind of relaxing, doing something you enjoy, reading, gardening, having a cup of tea, having a drink. Don't drink too much. Go for a walk, go for a run. Um, so there are various, do anything that is not what you are doing from morning till evening.
Right.
Anything
Mm.
that is not included, including mails. Let me check my personal mails. There's no difference between, checking mail is checking mail, so don't do
Mm.
that. Go out for a walk. And if you're living in a very crowded place where you there is no place to walk safely, like in some places in India, the evening the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
road gets crowded. Find a spot where the nearest park or some place, or find something to do at home. I know people
Mm.
who take up painting, I know people who take up sketching. People who have never done that, after they became a vice president, senior vice president, they just pick up, a sketchbook and pencil is
Wow.
all you need. Whatever can relax you.
Mm.
You need to figure that out for yourself.
True.
There are men who are doing crochet these
Wow.
days, to de-stress. So,
Mm.
forget the gender divide and
Oh,
what
yeah,
is
absolutely.
acceptable,
Yeah.
not acceptable. Do what works for you.
Mm.
But it is
Mm.
very important. It's very important that you end of the day you kind of de-stress.
Mm.
My children went to a school called Rishi Valley, which is in southern India,
Right.
and they have a different way of different approach to education. So every day evening, the whole, and it's a small school. There must be about 300 kids, and it's a residential school. Not even
Mm.
300, I think 250 something those days. The end of the day, the kids would go, and there was a rock formation, a slope, where you can watch the sunset.
Mm.
And end of the day, all the staff and the kids would go sit there and watch the sunset, which is a time of silent reflection.
Mm.
And this is something that a lot of famous leaders did. They do
Mm.
the sunset self reflection. Some people write down.
Yes.
So that also is something, as long as it doesn't rile you and make you more anxious. That I think is a that's why people say that watching sunset is calming.
Mm. Mm.
While sunrise gives you energy, sunset can be calming. So
Yes.
all go to your terrace and watch the sunset, you know,
Mm.
if nothing else. Yeah.
True.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Radhika. And one last thing. What would be
Mm.
your one-liner message to our listeners?
Um, I would say that you are important.
Mm.
You
True.
are important because a lot of us, especially women, think that you are the second fiddle, you know.
Mm.
You are the role, you're the wife, mother, or the working woman, or the sister or the daughter. Um, Same with men also. I'm not saying that it's only with women, but a lot of us get lost in roles, which is something that I would urge you to explore for yourself and find that individual.
Mm.
We call it individuation of personality, um, and and know that you are important, uh,
Mm.
if not to anybody else, to yourself. You
Mm.
owe it. I mean, you have been created, and you're a complex creation, right? Human creation is the most complex
Mm.
creation you can think of. Um, so there has been some effort that has been put into by nature. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about destiny and
Mm.
all
Mm.
those things,
True.
but such a beautiful creation, capable of so many things. Don't hold back and just try, be be the you, the who's
Mm.
important. uh, be kind to yourself, and never be apologetic about your success.
Mm.
If you're successful, own it. Be take pride in it.
Absolutely.
Don't be narcissistic, but but take pride in it, and own
Absolutely
it.
right.
Yeah,
Mm.
own it. Yeah, yeah. Own
Thank you,
it
Radhika.
gracefully. Yeah.
Mm. Beautiful words, very profound and inspiring and heartwarming at the same time, and
Thank you.
lot of things to learn and probably unlearn also. Sometimes we need to unlearn things to learn
Of
better
course,
things.
of course, of
Um,
course.
so, to my listeners, if you're hearing this podcast for the first time, I really do hope that you had a lot to take away from Radhika's words, her journey, her expertise, whatever she shared on workplace aggression in South Asian workplaces. And if you've heard us for a while, I hope you liked what you heard tonight or today. If you've got any questions, thoughts, comments, or critique, even, please feel free to write to me. Or if you want to get in touch with Radhika, write to me at Awaz-e-Haqiqat@gmail.com. I'll put you in touch with Radhika as well. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Awaz-e-Haqiqat. So please let me know what you thought of the conversation. And Radhika, thank you so much for giving me time, your expertise, your wisdom. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the very best. And I hope to hear more people come to your podcast and more people listening to you. And
Thank you.
the work you're doing is really important. And thank you very much for having me. Uh,
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you for coming
yeah,
here.
yeah.